Kids, how are we doing today? In your third grade, right? Yep. Awesome, awesome. And I have been invited down here to read to you guys. Is that okay? Yeah. And then if time permits later, we are going to go outside and see the fire truck. And if you have any questions out there, we will be glad to answer them to you. Okay? And like I was telling your teacher a minute ago, yep. We are still, we are still available for calls. So if you see me get up and leave all of a sudden, that's why. Okay, it's not that I don't want to be here, and it's not that I want to be rude to you, but there is people that might need our help right now. Okay, so if that happens, maybe we can come back another time. So we'll get started with reading the book. Along the banks of the Rhone River in the gentle hills of Providence, there was an ancient little village called Tersan. The people there were always very happy. Until one dark night when trouble started. First, the goats disappeared from the farmer's yard. 3 nights later, Martin, the innkeeper, lost his pigs. 2 nights after that, the geese vanished. The next morning, not even a feather remained. Farmer Peary offered to sit in the bell tower all that night to see what he could see. In the morning, Claude's sheep were gone, without leaving even a bit of wool behind. The townspeople ran to the bell tower and called the farmer. "What did you see? Who took our animals?" But Farmer Perry was fast asleep. "A fine watchman you are," said Martin, the innkeeper. "Tonight I shall take the watch." He had 3 cups of strong coffee after supper and was wide awake all night until just before dawn. Then his head bobbed down to his chest. Suddenly there was a terrible roar. The innkeeper sat up with a start and peered into the darkness. Something long and green and studded with sharp red spikes was rushing past the church. But when he rubbed his eyes to see better, nothing was there. The sun shone yellow over the river as the townspeople ran to the bell tower. Maudine was sobbing. Her cow was nowhere to be seen. "I think I saw a piece of a monster in the night," the innkeeper said. "It made an unholy racket, and its tail was long and green and covered with sharp red spikes. I had one good look, but in a blink it was gone." Oh, no," moaned the crowd. "I shall take the watch," said the mayor. The mayor sat in the chair on the balcony of the town hall all night. He was so worried for his people that he could not have slept even if he had wanted to. Shortly before daybreak, there was a terrible roar. The mayor crouched down and peeked through the railing. On the street below ran a fairy dragon with smoldering eyes, and smoke puffed from his nostrils. He had wild black hair on his giant head, and his huge green body blistered with red sharp spikes. He had six fat legs and 6 fat feet, and each fat foot had 6 long claws. His dreadful green tail ended in a knot. The mayor fainted flat on the balcony floor. The next morning his wife poured icy water on his face to revive him. The mayor sat up and told everyone that he had seen and heard. "My dogs are missing," yelled Marcel, the butcher from the crowd. "Oh no," breathed the people. The mayor stood tall on the balcony. "My friends, these are terrible times. We must bring the rest of our animals into our house tonight. Every sheep, every goat, every pig, goose, dog, and cat. Lock your windows, bolt your doors. There is nothing else we can do. Be strong, my friends," the mayor said. That day, business was very good for the locksmith of the village, and that night the houses were all crowded. Nobody slept well except the mayor. Once again, he decided to sit up on the balcony, but by midnight his head was nodding. As the soft wind blew in the yellow Providence morning and the townspeople slowly gathered, he pinched himself awake and diligently took charge. The villagers had just accounted for all the animals when Maudine, the baker's wife, ran wailing into the midst. "My boy, naughty Bernard, he's not here. Yesterday the baker bolted both the doors and locked the windows, but the front door was open this morning, and Naudine is gone." "Ee!" cried the mothers. "Ooh!" cried the fathers. "Here I am," cried a very frightened naughty Bernard from the top of the chestnut tree in front of the town hall. Naughty climbed down the lowest branch and then slid into the ground. The seat of his pants had been ripped away. The baker's wife and the baker's Claudine himself pushed their way through the crowd and hugged and kissed him. Naughty boomed the mayor. "Tell us exactly what happened." Naughty spoke in his shaken voice. "I didn't mean to be naughty. I thought I could have saved the town. All night I hid behind the post under the town's hall balcony. Just before dawn there was a terrible roar, and then I saw a fairy green dragon covered in red spikes, just as the mayor said." "Yes," said the mayor, "go on." "I hunched down, but the dragon saw me in the darkness and his burning eyes. He ran toward me on his 6 green legs. I started to run away, but he followed me. Closer and closer he came. He reached out his claws and caught my pants, but I didn't stop. I ran and ran, right up the chestnut tree. From the highest branches I watched him disappear into the river, and the water sizzled and steamed. The whole town trembled. "What can we do?" they asked one another. "What can we do?" You didn't see the picture? At just this moment, everyone heard a sound of a clear, true voice. A young girl turned the corner singing. She was tall and thin and barefoot. She wore a simple dress tied with a long, silky sash. Her hair hung in dark curls, and her face was fresh and rosy. She spoke softly, and everyone hushed to listen. "Good people, why do you look so frightened and sad on this sunlit day?" The mayor told the girl all about the missing animals and the terrible green dragon with the sharp spikes, smoldering eyes, 6 swift legs, and a long, dreadful tail with a knot at the end. The young girl gazed up at the mayor. I should like to meet this dragon of yours," she said. "Oh, I wouldn't advise that," said the mayor quickly. "Stay safe with us," said the baker's wife. I shall double bolt the doors tonight. What is your name?" "Martha," said the girl. "You are kind to this poor traveler." And so Martha went home with the baker, his wife, and their son, Naudine. And and she was made to feel very welcome. That evening she was given a little bed in the spare room. If you hear any strange noises at all, call at once for the baker. Thank you, Maudine, said Martha quickly. But in the stillness before dawn, when the fire had burned its last, Martha pushed back her quilt. Noisily she unlocked the window and stood on a chair. Without a sound, she climbed over the ledge and dropped to the ground. She ran to the town hall just as the dragon's dreadful green tail disappeared past the church. Martha raced after him. Stop, she commanded in the voice that cut through the beast's terrible roar. The dragon turned his green, ugly head. He billowed back smoke into Martha's unsmiling face. I am Latrishka, he shouted. I am the most terrible dragon in all of Providence. In my big belly right now are farmers' goats, Martha the innkeeper's pigs, Maudine's geese, Claudine's sheep, Maudine's fat cow, Marcel the butcher's great big dogs, and the seat of a Nadine's boy's pants. And I still have room for a wisp of a young miss. Martha didn't move. Didn't you hear me? Bellowed the Latriska. He opened his furious eyes so wide the smoke puffed out around the edges. Martha looked directly into the fiery eyes with a steadily glaze. Shame on you for the wickedness, she said as she untied her long sash. That's the end. Yep. Oh, there's a little more here. Oh, yeah. Latricia snorted fire and reared up his hind legs. He lunged for Martha's head, but Martha made a loop with her sash and twirled it, catching one of the dragon's front legs. He stumbled, though he regained his balance. You will not terrorize this village, said Martha, stamping her bare foot so hard that the cobblestone rattled. Latarski surrounded her. Flames snapped from her eyeballs. Martha, with a flick of her wrist, flipped her sash again. I know the difference between good and evil, she said. Fiercely, you are going to know the difference, too. Now, Latarski, 2 front feet were bound. He ran into the circle, around and around, Martha snatching all her fiercely with his back claws. He scratched her thin arm and made her 6 bloody strips with her elbow to her wrist. Undauntedly, Martha looped her sash once more and encircled the whole dragon, dodging his snake tail. She whipped her sash into the air again and again, catching his back legs with it, one after another. Latarski stretched the night sky with his red lightning, and his thundering cry rolled the air. You shall not stay here, said Martha, cool as rain. She tied a knot with the last of her sash and pulled the snarling, bawling, struggling dragon all the way to the dungeon, where she left him locked behind bars. Just before the last star disappeared that into the morning, Martha arrived back to the baker's house. She climbed through the window, bound her scratched arm, bolted the window, and slipped into her little bed, sure that no one had seen her. An hour later, the people gathered again in front of the town hall. Everything had gone well the night before. All the animals had been counted. All the children had awakened safe in their beds. Martha stood in the street with Baker Gillette, his wife, and Naughty. The mayor leaned over his railing. I see that Naughty is safe, and I hope you all had a good night. But what is this? What happened to your poor arm? Martha quickly pulled back her shawl, which had slipped, and revealed her bandaged scratches. Whatever happened to you, Martha? Demanded Maudine. Just a scratch. Really, it's nothing, Martha said with a laugh, but the townspeople crowded around her, waiting for an explanation. And then a piping voice was heard, all in one breath. He said, "It's nothing. Martha caught the dragon. She saved our village. I saw her do it, but he scratched her. She tied him up with her long silk sash. She's not wearing it, and she dragged him to the dungeon. She locked the dragon up. She ran back to the house and was in bed before morning." No, the people in disbelief. Then someone tugged at Martha's bandage, her 6 red ribbons of valor, into the sunlight. "Oh, Martha," shouted the people. "Hooray for Martha," shouted the people. "Brave Martha," shouted the people. "Thank you, Martha," shouted the people. Martha was placed on a chair and lifted high in the air. The grandfathers tossed their caps, and the grandmothers waved their handkerchiefs. "I only wanted to help, Martha," said Martha. "Just a minute, Nadine," said his mother, loud and angry, enough to be heard through the dim. "How do you know this happened?" "I was there watching." Proudly at first. Then he looked at his mother and covered his mouth with both hands. "Oh, you naughty Bernard, barked Maudine. "You almost deserve to be tied up and dragged to the dungeon yourself. Didn't I tell you not to leave the house?" Martha turned her cool eyes at the baker's wife. "I suppose you are right to feel angry, Maudine, but Bernard only went to protect me. If you forget me, then please forget him too. Since it ended so well, let's have no more scowling today," said the mayor. "After all, the village is safe." And with just a little more sputtering, Maudine agreed. Martha's brave deed is still remembered in Tarskan each day with a special festival called the Fedin Narskin. There is feasting, music, and celebration, and a dragon is paraded through the streets. All the people say thank you to the beloved Martha for saving Tarskin so long ago. And then that there just talks a little bit about the book. So, hopefully you understood the story. Pardon me? That's up to your teacher. So,